hopefully short video just to go through this idea of shrinking an uploaded image, right? So I put this up in our learning moments. So I have some code here that we'll get to in just a second. I put it into basically a method that returns the byte array. Remember, the byte array is what we actually store inside of our database objects, right? So to demo it, I went back to last term's files and I grabbed the final version of our medical office where we added pictures. So we could upload a picture of a patient, right? And so I have that open here. And what I've done, so here's the patient's controller. So here's probably where I want to use my little chunk of code, right? So anywhere in here is fine. I'll just copy and paste it right out of Blackboard here. And let's get it. It's easier to talk about code in the highlighting of Visual Studio, of course. So I put lots of comments, so it'll be fairly self-explanatory. Oh, I guess I'm missing the letter P. Oh, small letter P. I had caps lock on there by accident. Okay. And I do need a using. So good old control period, right? System.drawing, just so I can have the image class. So there's lots of comments, as I said. So really we pass in the actual file object. Okay, notice it's of type same as we've talked about before, HTTP posted file base, right? And optionally, because they're optional parameters because I'm supplying values, a maximum height and width for the image. So you can always upload, you know, when you call this function, pass whatever values you want. So if you want teeny tiny, like 32 pixel by 32 pixel type things, you know, you can do that or whatever you want, right? Just knowing the max height and max width are the dimensions to shrink it down to, right? Supply your own values. Now this code maintains aspect ratio. So if it's a tall, narrow image, for example, right, then the height will be shrunk down to the max height and the width will be something smaller than the max width. It'll keep it looking in the right proportions. And if it's smaller than what numbers you've specified, then I didn't decide to enlarge it. You probably wanted it to stay small is what my assumption is. And I set it up to return everything in PNG just because that's my favorite. If you want, you can easily figure out in the code how you can change that to JPEG or something else if you really desire it. Okay, so basically we get the file in, right? And then I just create an actual image, right? Just from the input stream available in the file itself, okay? And then this is just some math to figure out, okay, well, this finds, first of all, how big the actual image is, right? And then if it's bigger than our maximum values for either height or width, then we're going to shrink it, right? But this math here is all about making sure we don't stretch it or you know, make everyone look like they gained 20 pounds. Although some people might like it if you made it look like they lost 20 pounds, I suppose, right? But that just maintains the ratios. And then after that, we just create an actual bitmap object. Notice we never have to write this out to disk anywhere. It just stays in memory, right? So we pass in the image file, okay, and then our new height and width, or width and height, that we want it to be. And that's it. It just resizes it as we create it. Then we just create a stream so we can stream it back out, okay, with bitmap file save, right? And then we get our stream back. We just reset the position because, of course, it will be at the end of the stream by the time it's done writing out with the save operation. So we just set the position back to the beginning so we can read the stream from the start. Create a byte array. Hey, there's our good old byte array that we like to use. And then we just created the right size based on the length of the stream plus 1. And then we just read from the stream into my byte array. And that's it. We just return that at the end. So it's easy to use in code because of how we've set up our code in the past, right? So if I'll just shrink this down for now to keep everything nice and small. Obviously in the create post and in the edit post, that's where we uploaded the file initially, right? So remember how we did this, we would have, once we've determined the model state is valid, then we grabbed the posted file and did all our work, streaming it and in creating our byte array and so on, and saving it. In our patient, we created these 3 properties for the image content being the byte array and the MIME type and so on. Okay, so we're still going to keep basically some of this code, but I'm going to modify a bit and actually put an example of how we would use it right up in our Blackboard course. So let me just come back here again, right? So this is kind of how we would have it inside. I won't take all of that, just I include things like that sometimes to show me where it is in code. Okay, so I'll just replace it like this, The only thing I wrote is I did move the getting the file name first up here, right? And then there's my shrinkImagePNG. Why is it underlined? Oh, I guess I haven't saved it, so it doesn't know about it yet. There we go. All right, so all we're doing is I did modify the if slightly. I just want to make sure that the MIME type contains image and the file length is greater than 0. Notice that we didn't put any try, catch, or error handling. Our method assumes, right? It assumes that we, gotta just find out shrinkImagePNG. Oh, I did, okay, I just have an extra character here somewhere. Hang on. Okay, so that was a copy-paste error. I had this block of code and that extra curly brace in twice because of how I copied it. Anyway, all right, so back to, there's my method that then returns the bitmap. So I just save that in here. So as long as I have an image and the file length is greater than 0, right, then we can just pass the file, and notice it's going to use the default values, right? I could specify my own max height and max width, and we'll do that in the edit just to see the difference in the two effects. Okay, so that's really all we're doing. And notice I'm hard coding as well the MIME type because I know this always returns a PNG file. You know what I found? It really doesn't matter that much when you go to display it again. It works fine no matter what the MIME type is. Anyway, so that's good. So that's how we'll do the edit. So we're just using our shrink and we're going to make it the size that we want, right? Now when it comes down, I can basically take the same code, come down to our, so that was the create, come down to the edit. And this is pretty much the same thing here, okay? And of course we have our checkbox to decide if we're removing the image. Remember we just set everything to null, and that just basically removes the image from the patient. Else, okay, then we're going to replace it with the uploaded one. So the only difference here is of course it's going to be patient to update, but actually I have to confess it did catch me the first time. I didn't notice that besides being patient to update, I had changed the name of the input. Instead of being the picture, in the edit view, it's new picture, right? So I would have got a null reference exception there because it would have looked for, in request.files, something called the picture, and it wouldn't have been there because the edit named it the picture instead. But basically the same thing, okay? We'll just check, make sure we actually have an image. Okay, I don't want to try to run my code on a Word document, right? And then there actually is a content inside it, then we call it. So just to emphasize one last time, if I just go to the definition here again, I see that I'm assuming that you actually are passing in a convertible image file, right? We could put try catches or error handling or something like that in here, but I'm going to assume that, hey, you're probably using a try catch or something like that when you're calling the function. The function assumes that this file is some type of image that we can work with. We're passing the buck. That's okay. All right, now just to demo it now, to see that it actually works, let me just bring up the patient index view. And I guess I'll probably log in as an administrator. And just down here where we display the image, I'm just going to modify it. Right now we're hard coding here a max height and width, right? I'll take that out. So whatever size the picture is stored in the database, that's how much room it will take up on the screen. That way I can see the different sizes. And oh, that's the other thing I was going to do. When I call this in the edit, make sure I'm in edit here, right? What I'll do is I'll make it a different size. So you can see that those arguments actually do make a difference. So here, instead of the default of 120, maybe I'll just double it. I'll go 240 for the height and 200 for the width. But you can put in any values you want. We just wanted to show with values as opposed to just using the default. All right, let's see how it goes. Now I'm hoping I have a big enough image I should get an error when I go to upload a really big file, but that'll give us a chance to talk about the last tip of the day. Okay, and I'm still logged in because I did log in earlier to make sure. So if I come to patients, I guess I have to create a new one to see the create working. So give me 1 second, I'll fill in some. Okay, so I have the basic data in, just so I think I should pass my validation check. So let's just browse for a file. Now I grabbed some earlier with the help of a friendly student, and I threw them up here, I think in our, which course I put it in? Probably 1440. Large images. Okay, I'll just pick one. Mediterranean cuisine, there we go. Nice big file. Okay, so let's click create, and there we go. Maximum length, request length exceeded. So I want to talk about this because some students have said, hey, I have a problem if I have a really big file to upload. Well, that's rarely an issue with things like a PDF or a Word document, but images can be very large. So let's deal with that next, right? So I'll have to stop running to make this change. But if we come way down to our web config, okay, you'll find here in system.web, here's HTTP runtime, right? And a couple of the options we can set in here, I've given the hint up in Blackboard, so if you're trying to follow along, right? Tip, okay? Max request length and execution timeout, right? Those are two things you might want to fiddle with. You can do some reading, find out what values work for you. But I'm just come back over here. So max request, oh come on, where's the IntelliSense? Okay. Max request length equals, and I don't know, put in a nice big number. Actually, I found that one works very well for me in the past. And execution, timeout, I don't know, I'll give it 600. So if I run again now, hopefully I'll be able to upload that same image. Oh crap, I'm gonna have to enter, oops. I'm gonna have to enter all that data again to create the patient. Arr. Or wait, can I come back here? Ah, look at that, okay? I think I might get away with this. So I'm gonna click create, and there we go. So it created the image, and you can see the size, right? So let's, I'll just edit somebody else. So I'll browse, we'll choose the same image here. And so you can see the size difference, right? So it genuinely is shrinking it. I wanted to prove that it's not just that we're controlling how it's displayed, because I've taken the restrictions off, right? So you can see the size is actually there. So I'll just edit another one. I'll pick a different image. Like, oh, coffee. I could use some coffee right now. So we'll just, there we go. So we have nice big images on edit and smaller ones on create. Now, of course, you wouldn't actually do that. I'm just doing it for contrast and compare purposes, right? But you can see how easy it is then to actually shrink down the size. Now, a common practice, just to mention it, is when you upload a file, instead of saving one copy, especially things like artwork and so on, right? You would probably save the original version as big as it is, but you can also make, right, separate thumbnail very easily with this code, right? So you could actually store two different byte arrays for the same image, one with the full data for the full-size image, and one for a nice small little thumbnail, and away you go. All right, so hopefully that code will be of help to you, and that little tip as well on uploading big files.